a dictation of Jesus, titled Heard on June the 10th and copied today, the 14th. That is 1943, from the 1943 notebooks. Jesus says, "Pray, offer, and suffer a great deal for my priests. A lot of salt has become insipid, and souls suffer on this account, losing the savour of me and my doctrine. I have been telling you this for some time, but you do not want to hear this, and you do not want to write this. You draw back. I understand why. But others before you have spoken of it, by my inspiration, and they were saints. It is useless to want to close one's eyes and ears, so as not to see and not to hear. The truth cries out, even in silence. It cries out with deeds, which are the mightiest of words. Why don't you repeat the prayer of Mary Magdalene to Patsy? At one time, you always said it. Why don't you offer part of your daily sufferings for all of the priesthood? You pray and suffer for my vicar. That's fine. You pray and suffer for some consecrated men and women who entreat you, or towards whom you have a special duty of gratitude. That's fine. But it is not enough. And what do you do for the others? You have established an intention to suffer for the clergy on Wednesday. It is not enough. It is necessary for you to pray every day for my priests, and offer part of your sufferings for this motive. Never grow weary of praying for them, who are the ones most responsible for the spiritual life of Catholics. If it suffices for a layman to do the work of 10, so as not to cause scandal, my priests must do that of 100, 1,000. They should be like their master in purity, charity, detachment from the things of the world, humility and generosity. Instead, the same slackening of Christian life which is in the laity is in my priests, and in general, in all the persons consecrated by special vows. But I will speak to you about them later. I am now speaking to you about priests, about those having the sublime honour of perpetuating my sacrifice from the altar, of touching me, of repeating my gospel. They ought to be flames. They are instead smoke. They do wearily what they must do. They do not love one another, and do not love you as shepherds who must be ready to give their entire selves, even to the point of sacrificing their lives for their sheep. They come to my altar with their hearts full of earthly concerns. They consecrate me with their minds elsewhere, and not even my communion sets aflame in their spirits that charity which ought to be alive in all, but which in my priests ought to be extremely lively. When I think of the deacons and the priests of the church in the Catacombs, and compare them to those of today, I feel infinite compassion for you, throngs who are left without, or with too little food of my word. Those deacons and priests had a whole malevolent society against them. They had the public authorities against them. Those deacons and priests had to carry out their ministry in the midst of 1,000 hardships. The slightest act of imprudence could cause them to fall into the hands of tyrants and lead to death by torture. And yet how much faithfulness, love, chastity and heroism existed in them. They consolidated the nascent church with their blood and their love, and made each of their hearts an altar.